So we have everybody here. So the next item of business is approval of minutes. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Except that they were very good again.
Thank you.
All right, then.
She tries.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? No. Okay. Next item of business is public comment. Do we have anybody? Okay. All right. So then we go to old business. And the first item I put on here, I hope this is okay with everybody, is just to discuss this, just have a generalized discussion. And I thought what would be helpful would be to have Mary or explain the documents that that were sent to us yesterday, so that we're all clear on exactly what it is that they show.
Yeah.
So if you were
Like Christy.
let Christy go through it and explain what it is we're seeing here.
So the first page says homeowner is fully disabled circuit breaker. So we took the information from the 2020 grand list. There was about 246 accounts. And then with the 25.98 mill rate, it came out to an amount of $128,934.
Now, and that amount represents what, Christy?
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
So that was the equivalents in taxes that were lost for what the state would have paid back for the state program. The state doesn't do that, so that's just revenue lost from the town by everybody who qualifies for that homeowners disabled.
How many accounts, Christy? I'm sorry.
246. I have an
And I
extra
think
copy
we
of
went,
it. if anybody wants it.
we estimated 129,000, so
Yeah,
you're a couple dollars off.
yeah, very, very close with it. The part below it talks about District 1. So I mean, with that included, it's closer to 129.
District 1 is the
I'm going to
city.
show my ignorance here. What's District 1 as opposed to the rest of the town?
The city. So anybody who is receiving that has a house that's in there.
Oh, I see.
So I mean, that would more or less just affect the city, not necessarily the town's mill rate.
Oh, okay.
And then,
But the city, all right.
You don't have to worry about it. It's there. You're dealing with the town.
Okay, so you didn't give
So you
us
can
that
just-
information because we needed that.
Yeah, it's.
So are currently if we offer a tax break, people on the city aren't entitled to it?
They are.
They are.
So Groton is like a layer cake. We have
Right.
9 sets of mill rates. We just don't get one easy mill rate to govern with.
Mhm.
The biggest mill rate is the town, which everybody pays, city, Groton Long Point, districts, whatever. Because of the fact that the city is a recognized municipality and Groton Long Point is a General Assembly recognized borough, they have some sort of government. They can set their own mill rates. They're different than the fire districts. These programs, if somebody qualifies for this tax relief program, when we administer it, we typically administer the benefit under the city mill rate and Groton Long Point mill rate also. So the town's mill rate's 24 and Groton Long Point's mill rate is 6. The benefit that we calculate gets added and calculated against both of those mill rates. They still have to meet the cap threshold under the state program if you add up both of those taxes. But you guys don't really have to think about that. The only thing you have to think about is what benefit potentially that you might suggest or might not suggest. And then we deal with the math behind the scenes.
Okay.
Okay, but for the minutes, for me to summarize that, it would be accurate if I say that when people get some tax relief from any of the existing programs on their town taxes, if eligible, if it applies, they may also get some tax relief for their city or Groton Long Point taxes.
So that's what you have to decide for the local program. For the state program, it's required.
Okay.
Because only because the city and Groton Long Point have some recognition of the state legislature as governing bodies, Paquonic Bridge Fire is not one of these districts. We're going to consider Knowing Fire, Mystic Fire, Old Mystic. They're not in the same category as the town, the city, and Groton Long Point.
All right, so I have a question too. And on this, this page, it shows $632.24, which I think it stands for some sort of lost revenue.
To the city.
Okay, to the city. That's what I wanted to find out. So that's what lost, that's revenue lost to the city.
Mhm.
But can we impose that loss on them by adopting this townwide?
I don't know. That I don't know, because that's really a legal question for the attorneys.
All right.
But I will tell you, when we calculate the benefit, if you find that chart that has the income ceiling limits and the recognized percent credit, these maximum credits, that's $632, that's for 14 accounts. Those 14 taxpayers still couldn't go over the maximum amount given on this chart. That money is added to their town benefit, and they have to be below this maximum amount.
Okay. We sort of interrupted you. Is there anything more that you wanted to?
So then the next part of the chart there, it talks about the potential local benefit. So given the number on the left under the 2020 for those 246 accounts, it gives the breakdown of what the exact numbers would be for 75% of that benefit, what it would be for 50% of the benefit, 25%, et cetera.
Okay. And the bottom row is the revenue loss to the town.
Yeah, for District 1, if
Well,
again, if it's
okay.
the town
Yeah, I
and the
understand.
city.
But so, actually, okay, I see. So one advantage to, if we were to go that route or suggest that route, is that it's very easy to actually predict with almost certainty how much we're going to be, what the financial impact of this approach would be.
Correct, using the exact amount of accounts we have and the benefits that we've already delivered. Yeah.
Right, we could predict the impact given the current number of people that qualify.
Right, we have to
If
assume that
additional
they're not
people-
going to change drastically.
Correct, but.
Okay, how about the next?
The next 2 pages, it just kind of goes as far as the numbers I know that you're looking for, the current revenue loss for the types of programs offered. So I went back from 2018 to current for each one. So the first one, veterans. Veterans is a little more in-depth, just with the numbers. Vet codes A, like the A codes, B codes, C codes. All this information is stuff that Mary had given you before, it just kind of summed up on there. A couple of the 2021 accounts I was able to update with current numbers and current information. But, so as of now for that, I didn't have the number for the 2021 B codes, only for the real estate, which would be all the way to the right. But the estimated mill rate is put in there, so the estimated revenue loss is still the 90,257. Potential 11,000 reimbursed from OPM, which is the state. So that would leave about 78,000, almost 79,000 unpaid that the town would have to absorb.
And are these, okay,
Are we still in about the $3 million range
For
loss
Altogether.
altogether?
I did not calculate that, I apologize, but
I don't
there
think
wasn't drastic changes in the numbers,
There was not.
so, no.
So where we were before was about 3 million.
Yeah, so it's very close with that. A couple of the numbers, went up slightly, a couple went down, and a lot of the programs there's still time for people to apply for them,
Right.
so it's hard to exactly say.
It was like 2.8 million.
Yeah.
I have it.
Well, that's what I thought that it was. I just seen there was no sum on this. I didn't know if there was a big change or a little change.
No, sorry.
I'm just a bit, that 2.8 million or
That's
3
a total
million.
of all the programs and local options for the veterans, the circuit breaker, and then disabled.
That doesn't, we're losing that much, not counting the commercial.
What are you talking about, commercial? The
No.
MM&E and, oh,
It's
that's
separate.
a different.
That's just,
Okay, so we're losing 3 million a year in revenue from property tax relief programs offered to residential homeowners.
Let me do some math before you move on.
That's.
that came from the first meeting, so maybe that's wrong, but that's what I had.
No, I mean,
That's just
As long
higher
as it
than
was
what I
close,
had in
yeah.
my head, and I don't see anything on these papers that comes close to adding up to that.
Okay, I have a question too. I mean, I'm looking at the second page of this one. It's got
Yeah,
the
that's
homeowners,
just-
totally disabled circuit breaker. And it says the revenue loss in 2020 was 3350.
I'm sorry, which page are you on, John? Just so I'm.
The second page of the, it's the second section of the second page.
Okay.
And it says revenue loss 3350. It's the same numbers, 128,934.
I'm not.
So he's on this page.
right here.
Which page is he on?
The one with the green bar on it. See the green bar all the way to the side there? Yes.
Okay, for the,
Yeah, I'm just, I mean,
What is your question, John?
well, okay, maybe I was confused with what was on the first page we looked at. I thought that these numbers represented the revenue.
The first page represents 1 year, which is the 2020 grand list for $128,934.
Okay, and is that the revenue loss? Is that-
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how come on this one, it says revenue loss 3350,
3,000.
3,350? Well, that's all right. As opposed to 128.
that was just directly.
Oh, there it is. That's why I'm looking for 33. I was looking for 33.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I'd have to look at the spreadsheet.
Okay, but the 128,000 number is really what we're talking about so far, is what
It is,
what the revenue loss was.
Right.
Okay.
right. So if you add up all the things on the spreadsheet that Christie's emailed yesterday, it's $1,049,000.
1 million for 1
Yeah.
year. I'm just talking.
I just totaled up
Um,
every number in yellow. So for the last 4 years,
Okay,
it's $1,049,000.
yep, that's still the, I think we're all looking for an annual number.
Okay, so I will add them up annually, one
Well,
number.
how about just divided by 4?
I have.
I'll do that.
Saying it's
That's
the
where,
average.
That sounds
I wrote it
good.
down.
I know.
262,000. 262.
That's the average revenue loss over
Yes.
the last 4 years.
Annually, average revenue loss annually for all of the
The average is out.
property tax relief programs for residential homeowners.
Correct,
Okay.
For the last 4 years.
yes.
262, man.
It just seemed right. I don't remember how we arrived at 2.8 or 3 or whatever at the beginning, but this seems like a major change or deviation, whatever.
I don't remember where we got, that could have been all the programs.
I still think that was all the programs, including the commercial. That's 3 million.
Yeah.
Of the
That's what I believe.
Although I thought that was even more than 3 million.
What was that, 262,000?
Hang on.
Right, 262.
262, that's what I wrote down.
All right.
That's
Well,
what
that
the
kind of changes
secretary
the
wrote.
complexion of things a little bit. when you- if we're already
Yeah.
$3 million relief versus,
1.4.
262.
yeah, well, even for the 1 year, it's only 262, the average.
And the other question I have on this, what you just gave us, Christie, I'm trying just to, the title on the first page, homeowners / totally disabled circuit breaker. The circuit breaker program isn't just for totally disabled.
Right.
No, it's combined, it's kind of what you call it. Some towns have called it the circuit breaker, some in the computer program, it still comes up as CB. But that's all the same, that's for the homeowners who are over 65 and qualify with the income, or totally disabled regardless of age and qualify for income.
Okay.
That's why it says homeowners slash.
Slash, right, I just wanted to make sure I understood. Okay.
All right.
So it's really seniors and disabled.
That's probably all of the year.
Well,
Okay.
Oh, that's the veterans.
so, I don't know, are there any other questions about the programs in general?
So Christie just pointed out, the 2.8 million is the local option veteran program. Cumulative, what that has cost the town since they adopted it in 2003, whenever it was.
Which we are not really considering
You're
dealing
not,
with.
Right,
you're not.
Right.
And that number was over the course of 20 or 30 years. It wasn't just an annual.
Correct.
So that's all that was.
okay,
Almost 20 years, thank you.
The other veteran chart that Mary had sent out,
right.
it kind of goes more into detail of like the other chart numbers. It's like the very first one, it says 925 accounts receiving 2.5 and exemptions. You know, talks about what the statute was, et cetera. So, you know, again, that goes over everything since the implementation.
Paul and I came to the conclusion that this is the first meeting that it represented what we were foregoing annually by virtue of this program, which seems significant to me. So I think, to my mind, it changes the complexion of things for us to consider it, because if we were already granting $3 million worth of relief, you know, we might take a slightly different approach. I mean, what if we're talking about 262,000? In my opinion, anyway, because you know, I think that you might be a little bit more aggressive with that in mind versus if you're already giving out $3 million a year in revenue under these programs.
Right.
Right, on the other hand, we don't want to forget
Right.
that there are all those other programs that the total revenue loss to the town.
Right.
From all the programs.
But what's the revenue loss, since we brought up MM&E, what is the revenue loss of the town? Because I like to look at this as a percentage of that. And I think it's fairly nominal.
So
It's a lot.
No, I mean, this
Including-
is relative
Right,
to
oh,
M,
okay.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
What's the MM&E loss?
M&Ms.
a cumulative,
No, annual, more recently.
Roughly.
I don't know if I have that.
It was in something we were given out. Who has all their pages?
yeah,
The
the-
total is here. I'm not sure.
The
It's
blue
in-
chart, I call them blue charts.
So that's cumulative. It doesn't have the annual. And I don't have my
Is it over, how many years is it over? We could probably-
1990, I think as far back as I went was 1991.
But that
The
doesn't
state-
work
The
because we
state
used to
was
be
reimbursed
reimbursed.
for that through
Right.
2016, I
It was
think.
216,
Or was it-
right, 2016.
So the more recent loss is much greater
Yeah,
than it used
we're
to
not
be,
getting
so we
reimbursed.
don't want to.
No, that'll skew the number.
I don't have the annual
Okay.
amount.
Could you get that to us after the meeting
Yes, I can.
for like the last 2 or 3 years, 4 years, but annually? Just so you know.
There is like Paul said, the blue is here.
Oh, no, that wasn't the ones that was in the back.
Oh, that one.
What's
No,
wrong?
that's not what, that's, you're right, that's for the program. That's
All right,
not-
so-
That's not MM&E.
51 businesses received the MM&E benefit on the 2021 grand list totaling $164,795,420 in assessment reductions.
Where are you finding that?
That is, it's the third page in of the unfunded one at the very top.
But does it translate that assessment reductions into
No,
tax.
I must have a different copy because it's not on this copy.
164 million.
But
That's a whole lot more than the total of the assessed values, I think.
So what's the number? What's the dollar? Hey, don't tell me yet. I'm getting there. All right, go for it.
164,795,420.
Here's your number, 3,692,000 revenue loss tax amount,
That's for 1 year.
1 year.
That's what I was thinking. It was, that it was
So
3.5 million.
this sort of pales in comparison.
I would say, this is,
However,
Less
the
than
the
10%.
issue with that isn't, oh, we should give necessarily, we should give more residential property owner tax. Maybe.
I'm not.
The issue is the state should be reimbursing us for the MME,
Yeah, right.
or we shouldn't be giving MME.
Sorry.
We don't have.
Well, we don't
authority.
have any ability to not hear that.
Correct, I know that, John. I'm just saying, I don't want that to drive necessarily. I don't want that.
Well, it's something
necessarily.
for us, I mean, we wouldn't have asked for the information if it wasn't relevant to our discussion.
I'm not saying it's not.
Right. Well, you know,
I'm always.
I'm always cool.
okay, well, I guess really what we're up against now is, I mean, I unless I'm wrong, I think that we've sort of confined ourselves to, if we're going to propose anything, it's to essentially expand the circuit breaker program by adding a percentage on to the benefits that are already being given to these people. That way, there's no question about who's eligible. It's the same people who are eligible for circuit breaker, and there's no question about what it will cost. So the only question, I think, is whether we want to do it, to recommend it, or it occurred to me that if we don't want to specifically recommend a change, we could pass along to the town council that the one sort of proposal that sparked a significant amount of interest was this type of a change. I mean, it really is up to them whether they do it or not.
Correct. But that is exactly my position. That I want to present them with that option.
Without recommending it specifically that they do it, or with,
Well, I mean, whatever comes out of the recommendation is the vote of here, but they still should have it in here
right, okay.
regardless. And I would like to think that if we do, I'm going to put that out there, that it's, you know, it's a program that we thought through,
Right.
not just throw it out there and say, well, go look at the circuit breaker, see if you want to do that.
Right,
Make
yeah, well,
some-
I'm assuming that we ultimately want to have some sort of written report that we give to them.
Right. And I don't even think that needs to have hard numbers in it as much as you should look here, potentially it could cost you this, you know, and just form those things as suggestions, not so much saying, we think you should do this. Because you're right, they're making the decision.
Right,
We're just giving them the information
yeah,
to make
but
the decision.
I think that the way in which, I believe that the resolution did sort of sort of anticipate that we would actually make a recommendation if we felt that something should be done. We would
Right.
say, we think you should do X.
Right.
So I mean, I think we have to decide whether we should say, we should think you should do X, or, well, we don't have an opinion about what you should do, but if you're gonna do anything, here's something to think about, you know.
I'm of a mind that we should say, we recommend that you do the following for this reason. This would be the cost impact of it.
As I was doing the minutes, but an option developed in my mind that follows upon what you're all saying. And that was an option to say to the council that the committee was somewhat divided, that some people wanted to make a recommendation to do nothing, to not add an additional tax relief program. And some members wanted to add some additional tax relief and do it in the form of offering
Right,
an additional
percentage.
percentage on the circuit breaker program. And so in a sense, we'd be offering them two recommendations to the council. We'd be saying our recommendation is either do nothing and or add this benefit. And I've been kind of mulling that over since the idea came to me when I was doing the minutes, and I kind of like that idea.
My proposal.
Certainly.
Ah. Excellent.
Okay, well,
I strongly feel that this current council has got some serious problems. And I feel that there's a lot of things that haven't been done in the last couple of years that should be done. And I just feel very uncomfortable in taking on one more responsibility. I just think it's not fiscally sound to be doing other things until you take the problems you already have.
right. Well, I guess, I know there's, I guess it seems to me that I know we have some, you are of the opposite point of view that we should propose something. It seems to me that we should have a vote on whether or not we want to recommend something, and then if we
Go from there.
If I mean, if that wins, then, then that's what we do.
Yeah.
So I guess,
Well, certainly, John, excuse me for interrupting, in view of the fact that the financial impact of the program is much less, at least I can speak for Paul and I perceived it was, thinking it was $2.8 million, which I get the impression that for most of you thought it was a lot more significant than it is, as opposed to, well, 262,000. And not saying that's a rationale per se for doing something, but certainly adds impetus to the argument. And when you look at, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I worked for the town. I was in the finance department. I'm very familiar with the town operation, the budget, and what's going on. So, and your points are well taken. However, there's so much money. I mean, you could say, well, why are we taking money out of fund balance? Why are we doing this? There are a lot of things that you could question. But when you look at the total impact of this in view of the total budget, in view of the, it's a drop in the bucket, it really is. It's
Oh, I
minuscule.
understand that. But
And so, I mean, to
just
do
think-
something, on the other hand, to argue or advocate for people who are, I mean, I'm on the Board of Assessment Appeals. I listened to over 100 appeals personally. People are hurting in town. And I mean,
Which is exactly why.
I know, but I mean, but this offers some relief, and really you have to look at the cost benefit. So the cost versus the benefit in my mind is justifiable, because I don't think that the cost is that impactful. But the benefit might be, it might not be that impactful, but it'll help people because people are feeling the squeeze. Property tax is gonna go up. There's no doubt about it, because the mill rates have to come down proportionally or inversely proportional to the increase in the real estate. So that's why, I'm amenable to whatever the group body wants to do. I mean, if people say no.
well,
One question I had. Sure. You said there were 246 people, cost benefit of alcohol, 129,000. But then we have 260. Is that 260 shared by this 246 with other programs, or is that?
Where are you getting 260?
The 14 accounts from the District 1 are you adding that into it?
yeah, keep.
So
That's what it is.
it's only
It's
It's only
246.
Those are the 16 people 14 people, these 14 people live in the city.
That's it.
So they're included in the 246. the top row.
Right.
So there's only 246 accounts, not 260.
No, I'm talking, the cost is 260.
Oh, the revenue loss, the 260.
The revenue loss is 260.
Oh, okay.
260,
accounts.
2,000 for,
So
But-
where is the difference between the 128,934 and the 260?
Just hold on a sec.
Well, one is just a circuit breaker and you add in the balance for the local option, all that.
Hold on.
Yeah, hold on, and I need David's question clarified because I'm not following. the
I'm not
question.
following is it $260,000 you're talking about?
Isn't that what you just said?
It was 262,000 is a annual revenue, average annual revenue loss.
For all of the programs that Groton administers.
We're only talking about this one.
So for the blind, for the,
Right.
okay.
But what I'm asking is the 246 just circuit breaker, or are other people who are getting blind benefits and so forth,
Veteran.
getting more benefits, part of that 246?
They could be part of the 246. If you're blind and you meet the age and income requirements, you are entitled to get both programs. Yes. We don't know who those are.
disabled.
We don't know right now who those are, but yes, certainly.
There's some people who are, under the totally disabled and they're over the income limit, so they're not part of that 246. There's others
But they're still getting
who,
some benefit.
yeah, and they're part of the other, the number on pages 2 and 3 of that. There are some people in that 246 that do qualify for totally disabled and get the additional 1,000 off the assessment. So it's a mix of both.
David, were you trying to ask? I'm just trying to see if I'm understanding both your question and the answer. Were you trying to ask? There's 246 accounts in the circuit breaker program, but how many accounts are there for veterans, for disabled, for blind, that might be people who don't qualify for the circuit breaker?
What I was really trying to find out now is, if you're spending 262,000, how much is each person on average getting of that 262,000?
Okay.
And I divided it by 246, and I come up with over $1,000 per person. But that clearly is not
Yeah.
an exact or precise figure. But on the other hand, if you say, "Oh, I'm only spending 262,000, it's for 3 people," that's a big benefit. So I'm just trying to get a feel for
Yeah.
for what really is
Yeah,
taking place.
that's.
Gotcha.
Good question.
And some of the things that I find hard to understand. We've got a population of close to 40,000 people,
Mhm.
and you've got just a handful of them that are seeking benefits. I sometimes wonder, are there a lot of people out there that are not seeking benefits because they just don't know, or they don't care, or maybe their income is just so high? I don't know, it's just.
Right, they don't qualify.
Yeah, the income limits aren't
Yeah,
really
yeah.
high
no,
for the program, and, if you're living in this area, a lot of people you have to make more money than these salaries to exist around here,
Yeah,
survive.
no.
But Christie,
You wanna-
if you could get back to us, if it's possible to generate those numbers,
To generate, be specific, which
How-
numbers?
how many
I don't-
people, how many accounts for other I'm interested.
All right,
I'm interested.
I don't feel that's critical for me. I just.
Okay.
Well, you wanna take a
I'd be
vote?
interested in the numbers. I don't need them today.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know whether we want to
You
take
just- you have
Dave,
to be
I don't know if
specific.
anybody's going to second this. If you have to make it in the form of a motion, somebody would have to second it. It's
Well,
not,
is it a motion per se?
Well, if it needs to be, I'll make it as a motion. But
well, I think that's how we would have a vote on it.
Right.
If anybody seconds it.
I'll second it. But well, okay, so let's do that first and then under discussion, I'll say what I.
So, okay, well, then, let's open to discussion. Basically, I believe that the motion boils down to, we should do nothing. And we should recommend nothing. Is that fair to say?
I think no action sounds better than nothing.
Okay, all right, no action. But that would include not in a report, not suggesting to the town council that they might want to look at circuit breaker program. It would be basically us saying, we don't think anything should be done at this time. That's
Right, because I think they have the option if they want to look at the circuit breaker, they can do so on their own.
Right.
They don't need the recommendation of the committee.
The resolution gives you two directives.
Okay, what's it say?
You are to provide a report, and the report shall include two things: the fiscal effect of such property tax relief on property tax revenue for the town of Groton. And number two, recommendations with respect to the form and extent of such property tax relief.
Right, but that presupposes that we are going to recommend some sort of property tax relief. So we're not going to recommend any, then.
Okay.
Then, I mean, and I'll get back to to my interpretation of the statute. I really think that the way it was supposed to work
I agree.
was that they were supposed to say, hey, we're thinking about, adding to the circuit breaker program. What do you think about it? And what would it cost? So I think this is, if we were to vote for this, then we could just give them a report saying we don't think you ought to do anything.
So
Right, the fiscal effect would be 0, and the
What-
form and extent would be none. Don't add a program.
really, I should have read what it resolved to before that, which is that the town council authorizes the appointment of a committee of 5 resident taxpayers to undertake a study and investigation with respect to such property tax relief, and to complete the study within 60 days and present to the town council the report that includes those two things.
Right.
So just
Right.
as a reminder.
Well, I guess, is there any more, does anybody want to discuss the proposal more?
Well, David needs to make a motion and I need to second it. I
I mean, you
don't know if
already
that
did.
happened.
I thought you already did.
We did?
Yes.
Well, I didn't. The secretary was not aware that.
You were so busy seconding, you
David moved, Natalie seconded.
You've got a written motion.
I do. Natalie is seconded. Okay, yeah, discussion. My one thing under discussion would be to let you know that I will be voting for this, but that does not mean that I'm not open. If this fails, it doesn't mean I'm not open to then looking at the circuit breaker program. And that, in fact, my preference in some ways is the idea, even if I vote for this, even if it, what am I trying to say? Let me gather my words.
Want me to be your spokesperson?
Yes. No.
I know, I think I know what you're trying to
What I'm trying to say is that I'm going to vote for this. My preference is to make a recommendation to the council that says this committee was split. Some people think we should not add any additional programs, and some would like to do something. And I will be happy to support adding a modest addition to the circuit breaker program. So I just wanted to let the committee know.
Okay, I guess I'm a little confused because it seems to me that if we were to vote for this, this was to get a majority,
Mhm.
that would pretty much end our business.
That's it. You need to-
So we wouldn't be in a position to do any of the things.
Except reporting to the town council.
Right.
Yeah,
But
she's saying
the
that-
report to the town council would be, don't do anything.
Mhm.
It wouldn't include, because there's nothing on the floor that includes what you say you would be willing to support.
Mhm.
So therefore, that would never happen.
I understand.
I mean, if you wanted to make an amendment to this, that's okay. All right, well then, is there any more discussion?
I'm just trying to get this all straight. Yeah, I'd like to make another amendment. Another motion.
Well,
We
I
have to vote.
think we have to vote on this first, and then if it goes down, you can make a motion. I don't think you have to worry about
He's right. So you,
that. I'm just saying.
you might want to just reread your motion and then
We all have a written copy of it.
Mary, isn't it, I seem to recall when I was on council that you could make a motion to the motion and that was then voted on and then the regular motion was.
Right, you could make a motion to amend, but somebody has to make a motion to amend this motion, right?
which is not what I think Paul is
It's
saying.
not what Paul is saying.
No, that's it.
So if you want to amend, you could take a motion for it. If you want to change.
No, we'll just let this one fly.
Okay,
We'll see
All
where
right,
it lands.
so let's take, should we take a vote? So all in favor of this motion, say aye. All opposed? Opposed, nay, nay. So it's 3-2.
Well, then I'll make a motion that we investigate the circuit breaker program and propose that that the additional benefit is not to exceed 50%.
Second.
Okay, when you say investigate, I'm not sure, I mean, okay. This it is discussion time. Are you proposing that we suggest this to the town council, that they do that, or are you suggesting, because I think we sort of investigated it already in the sense that we know what it's gonna cost and everything else. So-
Right, okay, then that's the suggestion,
Okay.
is that we send that we recommend that to the town council.
Okay, that they.
But we didn't have a number on it.
Okay,
Before.
all right, so that the benefit, that we recommend that the benefit not exceed 50% of what they're getting now.
Correct.
Okay. All right,
so that would be that one.
Yep, well, I'm gonna amend the motion. Because the wording changed,
okay,
okay, the wording now changed to make recommending something to the council,
okay,
okay? I would, if we're gonna do, if that's the wording of the motion, then I would amend it to say that we recommend to the council that they either not add an additional program, or if they choose to add an additional program, that what they do is add an additional benefit not to exceed 50% to people in the circuit breaker program. But the wording of that can get fleshed out over that. But you understand my drift?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if we need to tell them that.
I don't think we have to tell them that.
Natalie, I don't think their motion is asking us to recommend what they do.
I think it is, exactly. She read it to
Yeah,
us.
we're supposed to recommend a
Number 2,
recommendation.
recommend the form and extent of any additional
Yeah,
property
we don't
tax.
have to adopt it.
And I think it's important for the counselors to know that a number of people on the committee were supportive of the idea of not adding any additional benefit.
That can go in the report.
It can. Having served on the council, it's often a very helpful thing to receive something that says you have 2 options. Option A, take no action. Option B, take this action. And I would prefer that our just my amendment to the motion, that we
well, I guess,
recommend.
so we have to take a vote on whether or not the motion is so amended.
Oh, yes, well, first, hasn't even been, my amendment hasn't even been seconded, so.
Oh, okay. Does anybody second that? All right, in that
Apparently
case,
not. Okay,
you know, it seems to me that it's, I guess the reason I don't think it's necessary is that if we do vote to recommend this particular change, that it's implicit, it's implied, or it's an obvious fact of life that they don't have to do it if they don't want to.
Correct.
You know, it's up to them. Now, I think in our report, we certainly could indicate that, you know, there was some feeling among the membership that no action should be taken at all. I mean, what I'm sort of thinking is that if we do vote in favor of this, that I would spend the next couple of weeks preparing a written report that we could discuss at the next meeting.
Right.
I mean, and in that context, I mean, this may be a little strange, but am I allowed to, I guess if I sent a proposed copy to you and then you distribute it to everybody, that would comply with FOIA because it would be part of the public records? I mean, I don't know if I can email it to everybody
Oh.
without,
You can email it to everybody, John. That's not what becomes illegal, is if we then start responding to it and having discussion on it.
oh, okay, so, all right, so I can send it to everybody and then nobody should ever respond until the next meeting.
Correct.
All right. Okay, well, anyway, we haven't voted on this motion. In fact, is your second still in?
My second is still in
Okay.
play.
All
Mhm.
right. So is there any more discussion?
There is no second.
She seconded.
Yeah, I seconded.
Oh,
I seconded.
It's you
your
seconded my
motion, and I
motion. All right.
amended your motion.
all right, that- we're here.
All right, so any more discussion?
My only question is just a question. The motion as it stands is to recommend that they do something with the circuit breaker program, not more than 50%.
Right, right, that's the motion.
I'm just wondering. If that leaves them.
I mean, they could always decide on their own, they could do 100% if they
Oh, yeah,
feel like
yeah,
it.
Yeah,
It's
I
just a
understand.
recommendation,
Okay.
not a commandment.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Okay,
So,
Do we need a motion in writing before we vote on it?
I don't think so.
no.
I think I understand it, and,
the secretary will attempt to put it in
Yeah,
writing in the
I know
minutes.
that Patrice always asks for a written motion.
Oh.
And if the way the motion is worded in the minutes is not to the committee's liking, we can correct it at the next meeting when we do the minutes.
all right, well, then, should we take a vote? All those in favor, say aye.
All right,
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, 3-2. All right, I don't,
well, I have a couple of questions I just wanted to throw at Mary. On the town's circuit breaker, you had sent us a list of questions to consider. Are those incorporated already into the circuit breaker?
They are.
Okay, so then we didn't need any further action of incorporating that in because they're already there.
I mean, I sort of made some notes for myself, and,
Maybe you could, if you agree with those suggestions, you could consider them and consider them in your written report to the council for their
right,
consideration.
well, here's a list that I made, maybe you can tell me if there's any more that I should consider. Any proposal should include, I wrote this to myself, the income guidelines to qualify for the credit would be identical to those utilized in the circuit breaker program. Any other requirements necessary to participate in the circuit program, such as proof of disability, would apply to the new program. Proration of benefits based on a percentage of the property owned would be the same as in the circuit breaker program. The benefit will be based on the same assessment as that used in the circuit breaker program. Life uses and properties in trust to be treated as in the circuit breaker program. Is there anything else that, I mean, we should be specific about that you can think of? If so, you can either tell me now or tell me later.
I can tell you now, could you use the same filing period as the circuit breaker program, which is biennial every other year?
Okay. Same filing, same filing,
Same biennial to follow the existing application period with the state.
same filing deadlines.
Yes. Same filing deadlines, and they file every other year.
Now, your number 3 here, would the committee use net assessment after all exceptions have been applied? Is that the case with the circuit breaker now?
Yes,
Okay, that means again,
and
don't have
then
to address that.
you also mentioned the state filing
State
dates,
filing
tax
dates.
return requirement, same income amounts to be used.
Yes,
It's all the same criteria.
Yeah, I put that in my, that was my first.
The only other thing you haven't covered is, will there be any recapture in the case of the sale of the property or the death of the applicant?
I would say no to that.
We do that with the state program.
with the circuit breaker?
Yep, so a new property owner doesn't receive the same tax benefit that someone else qualified for. So if October 1st, property owner owns the property, they come in and
It's only a
Yeah.
recapture for the period of time
that they
during.
didn't own it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So
well, that's-
if the
Okay,
deed
I
was
thought you were
recorded
going back
April
after the
1st,
benefit.
no, if the deed is recorded, say midway, the
Yeah.
assessment year, April 1st,
Right,
we prorate their benefit to that.
okay, that's reasonable.
So this,
Well, actually, I think I covered, did I cover that? I said in number 3 that I read out, proration of benefits based on a percentage of the property owned. Well, that's different than,
That's different.
okay.
Right.
So if you own a house with your daughter, and
Right.
you have 50% ownership, we only give you 50% of the benefit.
Right,
This would prorate your 50% of the benefit to the date of sale or your death.
So,
the,
if I'm just making a note here, recapture upon resale would be the same as under the circuit breaker.
Death or resale.
Okay. Yes.
So the report would say that we're recommending this new program, local option, follow the circuit breaker program requirements,
Right.
but you're still.
And
gonna
then what
detail
I'm
the-
saying is I'd probably write something up that would essentially make it clear that these things should be part of it, that, you know, that everything would be the same.
Such as.
Right.
And Christie, were you trying to show us something?
well, no, this is, when we make the change in the computer system, it formulates a report, and it kind of does the breakdown of what they were gonna get, what the new thing is, who the new owner is, et cetera. And there's a table like down at the bottom that says the proration table per month, what the percentage is, et cetera. I believe Marion either handed it out or it was in one of the packets
Okay.
previously.
Good.
I don't know.
I think I use the restaurant.
Okay, well, let's wait till he gets back and then. So, I mean, is that sort of, can we say there's a consensus one? I'll put together a draft and send it out to everybody and you'll have a chance to.
Right.
I would prefer you not use the word consensus, because with a 3-2 vote.
No, I mean the consensus of where we go going forward. I'm not asking you to consent
Okay.
to the vote. I'm asking, now that you know
That
what
he's
we
gonna
voted
prepare a
on,
recommendation.
we have a consensus that I should write it up.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes. We can agree to that.
And if anyone has any suggestions, something
Right,
they
yeah, if
want, in it,
anybody
they can
wants,
send that to you.
has anything that they think that I should consider putting in it,
Yeah.
just feel free to email.
Send it to you. Yep. We just can't have dialogue with each other
Right.
online.
Exactly.
And I guess actually, if you send me something, I can't respond.
Correct. You can't.
Included it.
Right, I can include it in the report,
Or
but
not.
I can't respond and say, yeah, that's a good idea, or no, that's
Right.
ridiculous.
Are you crazy? Mhm.
All right, so basically what it seems to be, unless you have a problem, consensus is that I should write something up. I will distribute it and everybody can take a look at it. Unfortunately, we can't go back and
right.
forth.
Take it back and forth.
Also, if you have any ideas about what you think I should put in it, you can send me an email, but I can't respond to that email. I can't. Because if I do, then.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, the program's pretty well set. and it can cover
Right,
all
yeah,
of
I
these
don't
things.
think it should be
I just
that
don't-
difficult.
Yeah.
So I guess the next item of business is to decide when we want to meet again.
Did anybody find out what the set date was when we?
I believe that was sometime toward the end of May or beginning of June, isn't it?
I think so.
Well, I know that's where we wanted to end, but we were still deliberating about when we actually officially started, when the clock started
No,
on
that
the
was-
60
that
days.
But
That
I
was
guess,
the answer.
I guess we go by what the town manager said, right? Didn't he say that it started the day of our first meeting, or 2 days before our first meeting?
No, okay, well, that's fine.
So it would, our
That
first
would put
meeting
you
was
in-
sometime in beginning of April, right?
April 6th, April 6th.
So I think it was April
Yeah, April
4th.
6th was the first meeting, so April
Right.
4 would have been.
Right. So you're talking June 4th, which is
Whatever.
60 days.
No, I think 2 weeks. I mean, it's up to you because you're going to be doing the bulk of the work.
Well, 2 weeks ought to be long enough for me. I'll take today off, but I could start working that tomorrow. Well, hold on, I just want to take a look at my calendar. The only thing is, I think. Okay. 2 weeks would be I think that's May 10th. Well, that would be fine by me if that's when people want to do it.
1 o'clock?
1 o'clock, May 10th.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, so I guess we're pretty much done for today. Does anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
So, second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimity again, except for now we didn't.
Oh, well, yeah, my silence was a vote. Which one of you moved it? You said?
I moved it. One
Okay,
second.
yes,
Thanks, Mary. Thanks, Christine.
I'm on.
Mary, if I want to come in and spend a few minutes with Christie sometimes, just go through some of the numbers to understand it more, is
Absolutely.
that okay with you?
Yes, it is. She's not here next week.
Okay,
So sorry.
no problem. Hope you're
Yeah,
having-
really.
hope
You
you're having a
really
nice
would
vacation.
When I-
wake up about it.
When you see me coming back on Tuesday, the 10th of December, you'll understand.
Don't burn.